Here's why growing your business to $500,000 a year or more in revenue matters during a recession. That's what we're talking about in today's episode of the Profit Pillar Show. I'm your host, Parker Stevenson, CEO of the accounting firm Evolve Finance and author of the book, Profit Pillars. Now, this is probably kind of a weird topic for a podcast, but bear with me here because what I've seen in some data recently has been really, really revealing. So late last year, we launched the first edition of our online business industry report, where we looked at the financial numbers across hundreds of businesses and looked for trends or really any sort of theme that was popping up in the numbers. And when we looked at the numbers last year, we looked at them from January through June, and we did the industry report, I believe, in October to go over the first half of the year. We're starting to put together the data for the full year of 2025 to see, all right, what happened last year? What shifted from 2024 to 2025? And even what was different about the first half of the year versus how did the numbers look for the full year? And the one thing that has popped out so obviously is that businesses doing less than $500,000 a year in revenue are struggling significantly more than the businesses that are making more than $500K a year. So like our clients in that upper six-figure range and into the seven-figure range, those businesses have definitely had their challenges over the last couple years, but they're not struggling the way that the sub $500,000 a year businesses are. And we're going to talk more about that. So the businesses that we work with that are in this high 6 to 7-figure range, they have been able to right the ship since really what I'm calling a recession. The bubble burst, the online business bubble burst kind of around 2022. It was kind of official. And we've seen 23, 24, and 25 really be difficult years for a lot of our clients. Now, during those years, everyone was struggling. But we've seen our high six-figure and seven-figure clients stabilize. But our clients making less than $500K, their revenue has not been able to be sustained, and their profitability is brutal. I'm going to share more of the numbers during the industry report webinar. So definitely, if you're not subscribed to the podcast or not on our email list or following us on social at Evolve Finance, please check that out. Like, get connected with us because I think the data is going to be really, really revealing and there's going to be some important insights to gain from it. But the profitability for sub 500K businesses was awful last year, by far the worst I've ever seen. And so what I'm realizing is getting to that $500,000 mark is so important. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this because I think for some business owners, there's this desire to just be like, well, I don't want a big business and I want to keep it just me and I want to keep things as simple as possible. I get that. That is your right as a business owner. And when the economy is going well, you can, like being a freelancer, or running a small course business or a small coaching business or a small service-based business, sure, you can get away with that when the economy's good. But the economy's been pretty bad, at least in terms of the last couple of years, in terms of just consumer behaviors. People are spending less money. Inflation has been brutal, and we've seen the launches and the promotions across all of our clients shrink. So getting to this $500,000 mark has been really important for our clients that, again, are in that high six-figure, seven-figure range, because while maybe their businesses aren't as big as they were before we were in this economic downturn, they're still making a living. They still have a team. So the things that I think are important to understand here is like, let's just kind of speak to our clients that are doing seven figures. If you were a business doing $4 million during the pandemic, and now your business is doing $2.5 million, there's still profit to be made in a $2.5 million a year business. You still have enough clients and customers that even though maybe your revenue got cut by 40%, you still have enough customers and or clients to keep a healthy revenue stream going and get through a recession. And also, if you've gotten to that point to where you're doing a couple million a year, or you're doing 4 million a year or 6 million a year, you probably have a really proven offer. You've been able to scale it. You know how to communicate it. You know how to deliver that offer really, really well. And you know, that offer can be a multitude of different things in the online space, but whatever your offer is, you've got it nailed down. You're really good at delivering it, really good at marketing and selling it, and you're really good at making happy customers. Now, I'm not saying that smaller businesses can't do those things, but typically, if they haven't scaled beyond that 500,000 mark, then there's probably still some work to do there. And so when you're in a tough market where people aren't willing to take their wallets out as quickly, or aren't willing to click the pay now button on your landing page, then the businesses that have more of a track record, who have really nailed down their marketing communications and their sales funnels, those businesses are still going to find customers, versus if you've been operating with a sales funnel that just is fine during a good economy, but still has some things to tighten up, then a down economy is really going to show where there's holes in the way you're packaging your offer, pricing your offer, talking about your offer, so on and so forth. And so that is a massive advantage when you get to seven figures. You're essentially, it's the market going, you're doing something right. Your offer resonates. So that's a massive, I'd say, just strength for our seven-figure clients, but also the seven-figure clients, they maybe had to shrink their teams down, but they still have a team. They still have people around them that are able to push the business forward, so that when revenue scaled down, sure, maybe they had to let go of some people, but the business owner isn't left doing all the things. And so when you are a smaller business doing less than $500,000 a year, you're already kind of doing a lot of things, but maybe you did have that assistant. Maybe you did have someone that was helping you in the business, but when your revenue dips, if you still need that person to do those things, then you're taking a hit in profit, or you have to let go of the one or two team members you even have, and you're left doing everything. And that can just be a tough pill to swallow, and it can make running the business feel overwhelming, it's a hard place to be coming from when you're looking to problem solve revenue dips, problem solve in a down economy, and you're having to do so while also doing maybe some stuff you weren't doing before, because you had finally gotten to a point where you had that assistant, or you had that extra hand or two to help you out in the business, and now those people are gone. Or if they are still there, they're pulling money out of the profit that you would normally pay yourself. So there's this extra pressure and extra desperation to make sure, hey, are you doing the things you're supposed to be doing? Are you helping us move the business forward? And that's a really tough place to come from. So some of this, though, is out of your control. Maybe your business was growing, had some momentum, and it's just the timing of when you started your business didn't line up. So be it. But what I've seen over the years is that there's a lot of business owners that go, I just don't want to scale past maybe $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, because then I got to hire people. Then I got to think about systems. Then I have to, up level in some way that I'm not willing to deal with those things. And I have zero judgment on that. Truly, if that's what you choose to do in your business, then so be it. Totally fine. But there is risk that I was always concerned about with our clients that were just saying like, yeah, I'm going to keep my business right where it's at. I don't want to push it forward. Barring there wasn't any personal things going on that was stopping them from growing their business. We're all humans. We're all people. We got things going on in our personal lives. We're not just little, entrepreneur robots that only focus on our businesses 24/7. So, barring any personal things that might have stopped you from growing your business, I've just seen a lot of people willingly choose to say, hey, I'm going to stick around this low to mid-low six-figure range because that feels comfortable for me. Get that. But I've always had concerns about business owners that do that because it leaves very little buffer. That is the range where a business really has to take some steps towards stabilizing it and creating a little more consistency in the business, starting to systematize some things, having to make some pushes. But a lot of business owners don't do that because they're still willing to do a lot of work in the business. And maybe that's because their business model is simple, but that's also where like, hey, I'm making decent money. My profit margins look good. I don't want to eat into my profit margins in order to scale. I don't want to make more financial investments in my business to make it scale. And what we've seen is over the last couple years, not wanting to push past that $200,000 to $400,000 range can be really detrimental because you haven't built up enough of a buffer in your business in terms of how many customers and clients you're serving, team, all the things I just talked about, that when you cut those things in half, you're left in a really tough spot where now you're not making enough money personally from the profit. You have very little support around you, and you're left scrambling to solve some big revenue problems in your business that now you have very little support to do. And it feels like you're starting over from scratch. And we've seen some business owners over the last couple of years feel exactly that. Those clients that were doing less than $500K a year, they were really hit hard by this recession. And now they're left between like, do I keep this business going? Do I go get a job and do this part-time? Do I just give up on the business altogether? I mean, we've seen much larger businesses, seven-figure businesses even just go, you know what? It's too much. I don't want to feel like I'm starting over, and they go and do something else, which might be exactly what they were supposed to do, and that's fine. But if you're doing, let's say, less than $150,000 a year, right? You were probably doing almost everything in the business yourself anyways. You're taking a hit in revenue, but you have a really clear picture of like, I got to go get a job. Like, this isn't working anymore. I got a freelance business. My clients have dried up. I got to go find a job. Or, hey, I took a 30% hit in my profitability in terms of what I take home, but I can get through this. It's still enough money for me to live. Maybe I have, a spouse that is bringing in enough money that we're going to get through this down period. But it is that like low to low mid six-figure range where it's expensive to wait things out because you do have software costs, you do have team costs, you have some things that are costing you money that you might have to cut back on because you're not making enough money personally, but now you got to figure out how to get all that work done. And that's a tough spot to be in. So I recognize that for some people, it's just bad timing. But for others that weren't willing to push their businesses beyond their comfort levels, this is kind of the downside of that, where a recession or a down economy can make it really difficult to operate your business because there's not enough buffer there, that if you had to take a 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50% cut, you still have a functioning business that can get through that period of time. So I want to really emphasize why the scaling and growth matters, because I think what a lot of business owners think about is, well, any coach, like any business coach that talks about scaling and growth, they're essentially going, be greedy. Make more money, get more money, build the life of your dreams. And if all that resonates with you, that's totally fine. But I do think there's a lot of business owners that go, well, when is enough enough? Like, this is enough. Like, I'm doing really well right now. Like, this is where I want to be. But the problem with going, all right, I don't want to scale or grow anymore, is a business is volatile. There are external factors that can affect our businesses without our control, like an economy, like a down economy, like a global pandemic, like war, like natural disasters. There's things that happen in the world we can't control and can have an impact on our businesses. Politics does. The tariffs have affected a ton of business owners. But also, personal stuff happens. People get sick. Family dynamics change. There's all kinds of stuff that, like, again, even just individually as business owners, things might happen out of our control that is going to maybe pull us out of our businesses or not allow us to be as focused. And so have you built a business that's scaled enough, that's grown enough to help you get through those periods of time without having to take on a ton of debt. And I understand that, again, some of these things are completely out of our control and they may still ruin our businesses despite our best efforts. But for online businesses, I think most online businesses can get through a recession, but you have to grow enough and scale enough in order to make your business a little more bulletproof. And that is something I've talked with our clients about for a long time is eventually as the CEO of your business, not just as the founder, but as the CEO. I know for me, this has been very true. Risk management becomes a big part of your responsibilities. How do we protect what we already have while continuing to grow and look for new opportunities ahead of us? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are naturally risk-taking people. They're willing to make the jumps, take the leaps, and see what happens. And that's what you need to do when you start a business. That's a really strong skill set. But you'll hear bigger startups talk a lot about how the founder was really good at starting the business, but then they needed to hire a professional CEO to systematize, operationalize, and manage the risk that's inherently built into these larger startup businesses. And as a small business owner, you kind of have to make that transition because you probably don't have a business big enough. You can just hire a CEO to run the business because, especially a skilled CEO that maybe knows more than you and has different skill sets. So this is where you as the business owner have to kind of learn and grow and develop as your business grows as well. So you can handle the different challenges that come along with a $750,000 a year business versus your $300 a year or $300,000 a year business, or your $1.8 million a year business, or your $4 million a year business, right? Each level is going to demand different things from you as a leader and as a CEO. And this is one of the things that, like, scaling and growing a business, a big part of that is to help reduce the risk of a recession or something personal really devastating your business. Now, again, I just want to emphasize here that you can, scaling and growing isn't because you're greedy or selfish or falling for hustle culture, but business is hard. It is. But when you're in a good economic period, like we were during the pandemic, like that pandemic bubble made it feel easy. It made running a business seem like, everyone's really good at this and I have nothing to worry about. And the last couple of years has been humble pie for a lot of online business owners that went, maybe my business wasn't as bulletproof as I was hoping it was going to be. So if you are going to push yourself to scale and grow your business, it doesn't have to be for personal or selfish reasons, but it can be for the sake of your family and your team and being able to have a business that can get through tough times and doesn't have to go through such extremes when a recession hits. Now, again, you can run your business however you want, but if you want that long-term stability, it's going to be really hard to find that in that 200 to 400K. It feels like it should, but it's going to be really tough to stay stable. And a big reason that it's so important to get past that 500,000 range is for that stability. And I know there's exceptions where there's businesses that are in that 200 to 400,000 range, and maybe you just have a wait list, maybe you have a really good referral network, and you're always able to keep those 10 clients you need, or that handful of clients or customers that you need coming through, or whatever it may be. But again, if long-term stability matters to you, if you don't want to have to get a job one day, if you want to stay an entrepreneur for a long time, we have to think about installing stability into our businesses, which is kind of the theme of this podcast episode. And sitting in that $200,000 to $400,000 range is a comfortable spot, but it's a vulnerable spot, as we've seen. And so a stable business is almost always going to be a business that's pushing for growth. Now, obviously, I've seen business owners break their businesses trying to grow them. I'm not saying your business has to grow at the speed of light, but making the conscious decision to be like, yeah, I'm fine where I'm at right now. There's risk in that. It's completely fine to make that choice, but it's also important that you accept the risks that comes along with not being okay with your business not being stable, being okay with your business not growing. And if you do want a business that you can run for a decade or two, keeping the business growing and getting past that $500,000 mark is really important. Now, let me end here. Yes, this is partially my opinion here, but the numbers are showing this. Like, if you're listening to this and going like, "Ugh, I don't know, I don't need to listen to this guy. Like, it doesn't sound great, but it's just his opinion." I'm literally looking at the numbers for these small businesses, and I've been looking at the numbers for these smaller businesses since then. And since really the last couple of years, when we've started to see our smaller clients start to struggle really, really badly. And so these numbers are me trying to make sense of what's going on here, and the numbers are shaping my opinion on this. So while there is some editorial decision-making happening here in terms of how I'm presenting this through my lens and perspective, at the end of the day, the numbers are showing these small businesses are struggling. And I don't think that's necessarily a surprise, because during a recession, anyone who's in a vulnerable spot is more vulnerable during a recession, whether they have businesses or not, which is a whole nother conversation around why we allow that to happen. But as a business owner, we get to make a lot more choices and make a lot more decisions around how we grow, how we build, and what we want our businesses to become. So I'm really hoping that, number one, anybody that's watching this right now who has a business and is able to sustain their business in this economy, you appreciate that and you feel good knowing that, hey, I'm really glad I did the work to get to the high 6 figures, 7 figures range, or I'm happy to be in the $200,000 to $400,000 range and have a lot of momentum and growth coming my way, even when a lot of other businesses at that revenue level are struggling. But I also want some of the businesses out there listening to this who are doing less than $500,000 a year to understand, number one, you're not alone if you are struggling. That's what recessions do. That's what economic downturns do. But also, I just hope it puts a fire under you to go, okay, as the economy gets better, how are we going to grow? How do we scale? How do we create more stable businesses? Because more stable businesses have options when crap hits the fan. And that's ultimately what we can all ask for when we can't control a lot of external factors. So how do we create businesses that have the ability to be malleable and have options and can pivot and still function, versus just having to shut the doors altogether. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. Again, please follow us on social media, or join our email list on our website at evolvefinance.com to learn when we'll be doing the online business financial industry report. It should be launching sometime in March of 2026. We actually have a date, but I don't want to announce it yet, because we're still confirming a few things. But definitely, if you found this episode to be interesting, I think you'll like what the industry report. You'll find the industry report to be interesting as well. You can go to evolvefinance.com and download last year's report, and that will automatically get you on our email list, so you can see what happened for the full year of 2025. And if you want to learn more about how to build a profitable and financially stable business, check out my book, Profit Pillars. You can download it or purchase it from anywhere books are sold online. But as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.